Aloha, Scott Sommer here. I'm here to talk about sleep. It's just such a mysterious aspect of life, and it's so personal. When you think about it, biblically, it's kind of interesting how, dreams and visions, came during sleep. A lot of information and, as far as inspiration, came through inventors, and people have received a lot of information about their lives, through sleep. We process detox happens during sleep, and it's still a mystery, as far as science is concerned. They don't really know why exactly we sleep, but we spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. And so I ask you this question, how do you sleep? So I ask this to patients every day, and I always, have to ask several questions to find out how they're really sleeping, kind of like the energy, mode that we talked about, or module. So what I would say is that, the first question I ask is, do you fall asleep? And so some people can't fall asleep because their mind is, extremely active. So that's one piece of the sleep pattern. The second is whether or not they wake up. And so that's a big issue. And so a lot of people wake up. They're hungry. They're hot. They have all these things that happen to them. They're restless. They have bad dreams. Or they have like what we call a cortisol surge. Instead of getting your cortisol in the morning, which is should replace coffee naturally, they literally wake up in a panic. And that's happened to me in the past. When I was under a lot of stress, I would just wake up in a panic, and I realized that I need to do something about my sleep. And then the other part is, waking up early. In Asian medicine, we say that's a gallbladder problem. And who would ever think that your gallbladder would be related to your sleep? But it actually is. Once you understand the Asian clock, which I'll be talking a lot about this over these many episodes, is that it's critical to understand the Asian clock, because then you can understand when your body's most active and when the organs have this 2-hour period of time when they have the most activity going on in the body. And then, so if somebody wakes up early, they, no matter what they do, they can't stay asleep, late. They can't sleep in, and it's truly a gallbladder problem, which is one of the most common problems that I see clinically. Is gallbladder and liver is really the source of most problems in general. And then finally, just waking up tired, which is the fourth phase of sleep. So, so many people say, well, it takes me about, I say, well, how long does it take you to wake up? And so that's a good question to ponder. And many times people are, say for sure that it takes them up to 2 hours, or 2 pots of coffee or an espresso or whatever it might be. So if you don't wake up, within, an easy amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes, where if you need a lot of alarms, multiple alarms, you're have all these systems to make sure you get up, and it just takes an act of God to be able to get out of bed, then there's something wrong, with your sleep. So let's just kind of break down sleep for a minute. Sleep, of course, is, I always say, actually, I'm going to share a story with you about a patient of mine years back. And I remember that doing the intake on him, and he said that he had terrible sleep. And he sat down to explain to me what was happening. And he was waking up one night. In the middle of the night, he woke up and he was hungry. So he went to the kitchen and poured himself a bowl of cereal. And then he realized that there were several bowls of cereal already on the counter. And so he was really upset. At this point, he thought for sure somebody had broken into his house. He was ready to call the police. And he literally grabbed for the phone, and he was just about ready to call the police. And then it occurred to him that it was him, that he was actually waking up. He was asleep eating. In the middle of the night, he was just waking up hungry. And he was just ravenous. He couldn't understand why he needed, 5 bowls of cereal to get through the night. Well, it's obviously a blood sugar problem, which is another big cause of sleep problems, which is why what you eat at night really determines, how you sleep. So it turned out that this man had a tapeworm. And so once I found out that he had a tapeworm, we resolved it, and his sleep corrected itself. But until we fix the core problem of his sleep, which is the fact that parasites come alive at night, they're kind of like vampires. They basically they're worse on a full moon. I never thought that was true, but it really is, that they come alive at night. I think they play poker pretty much, but the concept is that they really interfere with our sleep. And I guarantee that when you're waking up hungry, that's a blood sugar problem, and the liver's involved, and most likely there's something with parasites. So let's return to sleep for a second. So basically, I call it the Easter egg hunt. So whatever we do during the day is necessary to give the nutrition to our body, and we gather all the nutrition that we eat throughout the day. So literally what we do during the day with our food and our diet, our exercise, whether or not we exercise vigorously or not, will increase our blood flow, our circulation. That's a factor in sleep. If you have restless leg syndrome, if you have a CPAP machine, you are not sleeping, and you have a very serious problem. In fact, I really truly believe now, after studying nutrition for 45 years, I would say that anyone that has a CPAP machine, they're in real trouble. And it's not that the machine's finally corrected the problem, but it's like the problem is still there, because these machines, these drugs, the surgeries are really like duct tape. They're really just barely holding you together, and eventually something's going to blow. And so with that said, we need oxygen when we sleep, which is why exercise is essential. We need good blood flow, which is why people have restless leg syndrome and they're on CPAP machines. We also need to eat the right foods throughout the day, so we have balanced blood sugar. So a blood sugar problem with sleep is that you wake up in the middle of the night, and then the other part is eating too many carbs late at night will lead to fatigue in the morning. So whether it's alcohol or too many carbs or heavy meals late at night, it really stresses the liver. And like I said before, the liver is really the factory of all hormones come from the liver. So if the factory's not working, then basically it just contributes to a poor sleep pattern. So now we could talk about, what can you do about your sleep? So many people ask me that, I sleep so poorly, I'm so tired every morning, I just don't know what to do. And so the first thing you have to realize is that whatever's interfering with your sleep, you have to eliminate it. So you give yourself, once again, a 30-day challenge, and then you look for things like caffeine. So caffeine has at least a 6-hour shelf life, if you will. And so even people that are drinking coffee 5 o'clock at night, many times people say, I can drink coffee late at night. It doesn't affect me. But it's probably affecting your sleep. So it's important to remember that you need to cut out the caffeine at least 6 hours before you go to bed. So you have to kind of think ahead. That's the Easter egg hunt. Whatever you're doing during the day has like a 12-hour delay. Like what you eat, and eating enough protein, especially at night, is really critical for great sleep. So that's the second thing, is getting enough protein. So it doesn't have to be, like a lot of times at night, I don't want to eat a lot of food, so I'll eat a couple eggs. And eggs are like excellent source. It's good for the brain while your brain is recharging at night. It's a great source of protein, and it's just simple. It doesn't take much to fry up 2 eggs in coconut oil or butter. And then a little bit of fat is really helpful too. For instance, some almond butter on celery is really a great snack. What that'll do is it gives you just, fat takes a lot longer to digest. So it's sort of like a presto log. It takes a long time to burn. And that's really what you want during your sleep, because obviously you're not going to get up and eat like the man that I described that had the tapeworm. You shouldn't be anyway. But so many people believe that just when they get up to urinate at night, that's just a normal thing, that they sleep well, but they have to get up 5 times a night. And that isn't true. So the other thing you want to do is cut out the water late at night. You should be hydrating early in the morning, like we talked about previously. And so that you don't have to drink late at night. You want to drink, cut out the water like 2 to 3 hours before bed, so that you don't have to get up late at night to interfere with your sleep. And so that's another key component. So avoid carbs late at night, get enough protein, drink your water throughout the day, not late at night. Make sure the room is dark and cold. And so that's really important. And then oxygen. I really like, cracking a window, because you're not really moving technically when you're sleeping, that you have to kind of make up for. The other part is exercise. It's important to exercise vigorously, HIIT training, high intensity training. We can talk about that in more detail later when we get to the exercise part. But that's just critical, that you have some oxygen. So crack the window, put on an air filter so you have clean oxygen, air to breathe. And all of these things will lead to deeper sleep. And then, of course, it has to be a dark room, which is critical. Once again, there's a lot of Band-Aids out there. Band-Aids, I say, that aren't really fixing the problem. And one of them is melatonin. And so that's actually kind of dangerous, because the more melatonin that you use over time, just like insulin, I use a parallel here, is like insulin. Say, for instance, you decided to start using insulin. And we all know that if you gave yourself insulin shots, unless you absolutely needed it, then eventually your pancreas would shut down and stop producing what you're giving it. So it's like a welfare check. If you give somebody money and then they don't have to work, then it's the same concept with the body. So you don't want to make a lazy organ, and giving yourself melatonin. I have people that even take 3-5 grams a night, and eventually, the research shows after 7 to 10 nights of doing that, your body will start to shut down its production. So it's better to get outside, get some light, natural light. That's another thing that happens to a lot of us, is we don't get a lot of natural light. So the melatonin doesn't go away, so we don't fully wake up during the day. So that's another part of healthy sleep, is to get real light. Get outside, get some real light with some good exercise, and then avoid the melatonin, because it's really a Band-Aid. And so you just want to fix your sleep the right way, which is correcting all the principles that we talked about, balancing your hormones, balancing your blood sugar, and making sure you have enough oxygen. It's a dark room and a cold room so that you can sleep soundly. So yeah, another part is, why children, struggle so much these days with sleep, and, I remember growing up as a kid, we'd read books before going to bed, which is a very calming, activity, or listening to music, or it was just much more calming activity. But nowadays, kids are overstimulated constantly, cell phones and the blue light, really interferes. We know that for sure. So some of the reasons why we call it in Chinese medicine, we call it heart fire. So basically, it's just things are harassing the mind. It's just overstimulation. And I believe that, there's actually 5 different gears to our body. And one of the gears, we'll talk about this in more detail, but is basically rest. So it's different than sleep, but it's just a restful mind, a state of meditation, if you will, prayer, meditation, a restful state. And I think that kids have kind of lost that understanding. I had a great grandfather that, was an amazing artist, but one of the things that inspired him for sure was that he lived in the Brandywine area of Cleveland, Ohio, and he lived out in the country. And what he would do is walk for miles. He would go on his walks and see all the cows and the horses, and then he would go back and paint. So it's just that's a restful state. It's like allowing your mind to stay open and calm and not to be overstimulated. So getting kids out in nature, I think, is really important. Looking at the stars, just simple things that they can do that allow their brains to shut down for at least an hour before bed. And getting away from the blue light. There are blue light blocker glasses, which are helpful. But, if the kids have this restless sleep where they find blankets on the floor, it's a very serious thing, because, if they're not sleeping now, when will they sleep, if they're not sleeping as kids? And so it's really important to guard their sleep and to avoid overstimulation, to have certain restrictions on phone and even TV, something that's just overstimulating. It's better just to have some calm, restful state of mind is a real thing. But we all need more of that, when we start our day and we finish our day, and then somewhere in the middle, we should also have that restful mind. And going on a walk is a great way to achieve that.